So Eric Swalwell, California congressman, evidently is suing Trump and his allies. Rudy, Representative Mo Brooks, and of course Junior. Look, it's the second major lawsuit against Trump and those over the January 6th insurrection. Somebody's got to be held accountable, and good for Swalwell. This is, I guess, the second. Benny Thompson, the congressman, had earlier done the exact same thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Anyway, here to share some thoughts on the big week and our inauguration yesterday. I mean, the big inauguration. Trump, what is he now, 47? President number 47. I've asked our good friend Scott Dworkin to come talk with us. Scott's the co-founder of the Democratic Coalition, also host of the fabulous Dworkin Report. Scott, thanks for taking time for us.
What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good. So how are things in your neck of the woods now that Donald Trump is back in the White House, president number 47 after the big inauguration yesterday?
Well, officially 17 or something I forget what it is because there weren't a lot of official presidents in the past. I didn't know.
Oh, that's right, 19. I'm sorry.
Yeah, something around there was nothing yesterday. Luckily, there was no attack on the Capitol. I think that they're extending security for another 3 months, as intensive as it is right now. The next threat that we face is the potential bombing of the Capitol building. That's the threat that the new Capitol Police chief has said is very real. And they wanted to do it. That's Trump militias that wanted to do it around the State of the Union. And so that hasn't been scheduled yet. In regards to the Swalwell lawsuit, I think one of the things that people should pay attention to is he lays out a criminal case against Trump, Giuliani, Don Jr., and Brooks. And it is obviously civil litigation where he's suing, in court. But it's the outcome is really it's an outline for a prosecutor
right.
to actually make charges, because he shows not just federal charges that should be brought against Trump, but he also has D.C.-based charges that are not just the misdemeanor that he possibly could have faced for incitement. And I think as we go on here and we dig in more, I think that we're going to find, as we saw the other day, one of the Trump appointee who was arrested for their role in the Capitol riot. Now they've collected data from members of Congress. I think we're going to see this, reach the White House, the former guy's White House. And not only that, but I think he's going to be knowledgeable about it. I think that Trump had a role in the overall attack on the Capitol. At the very least, he was accomplice when he decided not to add, any kind of security, not to let National Guard in. I think that he's going to actually, it's not going to be just the words and the buildup and everything like that. I think that my personal opinion is that he knew about the attack of sorts, at least the bare minimum that they were going to approach the Capitol, and then did everything in his power to be negligent so that it would soften the security of the Capitol and allow something to happen. And I think that in that moment, I think that the former guy, I think that he actually was hoping for people to be murdered, leadership, Pence, Pelosi, and so on. And so that's what I keep on thinking about in regards to everybody I've spoken with. So you'll see other lawsuits like this from members of Congress for trauma and other things that have happened. But really what you want to look at with Congressman Swalwell's brilliant lawsuit, again, it lays out charges that could lead to a guideline. It's basically a case against Trump, Giuliani, Don Jr., and Brooks, and it's brilliantly laid out. So I hope that prosecutors in D.C., Georgia, and New York City, New York State, and other states looking into, and other countries looking into the former guy.
Yeah, I hope so too. Look, I'd love nothing more than to see somebody locked up.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we're headed that way. There are 2 grand juries that were seated yesterday in Georgia. So subpoenas are going to be flying out. They're going to be very subpoena heavy with that. So they're not going to rely on requesting interviews or anything like that. They want to make sure that the evidence gathering, everything is on paper. There's no, wiggle room for anybody to squeeze out of it. That they confront everybody head on, and everybody gets a subpoena. Everybody, it's very quick, which would be months from now, obviously. But I would be very nervous if I were, the former guy, Don Jr., Brooks, and Lindsey Graham, anybody else who was involved with that, because this is another criminal conspiracy that's, Trump led. And I think that people, it's not just going to be like it's not just the incitement for the Capitol. It's not just going to be that phone call. He did other things. That's only what he got caught for. And so I think that I'd be very nervous about that, because that's not something that you'd ever expect. And then on top of it, you have Kemp, who probably will support the prosecution, I would guess, after all of that.
After he got thrown under the bus.
Yeah. I would say that it's very unlikely for anything to avoid any kind of prosecution there. I mean, that would be insanity. So somebody's going to have to get prosecuted, whether it's the person who was the middleman for the former guy. Oh, wait, there wasn't one. It was him, and he's on tape, and it's very clear what he wants, and he's a mobster, and he needs to be arrested for it.
There you go.
Treated like everybody else. But anyway, I would say that things are moving along swiftly everywhere, and I would say that justice is coming. Not only that, but keep in mind that there's, Trump's cabinet members are under investigation now, and there's other people like Elaine Chao who, they wanted to make sure that they had a criminal investigation into it. And we're going to hear probably every cabinet official will have something like that, and we're going to pursue everything. So justice, I think, is coming. It takes time, and we've obviously had other things to deal with. If you just keep in mind of the timeline, President Biden's been in office about a month and close to a month and a half, but that's it. So we're still getting our footing as a party in leadership, and I think you'll see that come through as we pass the COVID relief bill tomorrow.
Yeah, what I think is interesting is, I'm going to be interested to watch how many of his cabinet members are like Chow, where he probably put them into position knowing that he could leverage them and keep them quiet by what he could have on them. I mean, look, the guy is brilliant at being a mobster. He's brilliant at the things that he does well, like destroying stuff and bankrupting things. Almost did it to the country.
Yeah, and I think he's done it to himself without really knowing it at the moment. But all of these lawsuits add up very quickly, and you've got it in the billions that he's being sued for now. I would expect other people to sue as well.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is going to be really devastating is when families of victims who had died because of the Capitol attack sue Trump, and that's going to happen.
No, it's got to happen. You're right.
It's inevitable. There's no reason. And one of the I hope it's their decision based on their family, but I do hope that Officer Sicknick's family does seek damages from members of Congress and people that were involved that led to his death. So I don't know if that's going to be a reach or if they'd be willing to do that, but I know that the other families that died due to it are looking at it. So I think it'll be there's going to be other things that pop up due to this. This is not the end of the story. This is the beginning of this yarn ball. And, Roger Stone being in town, the Flynn brothers being involved, his links to Eric Prince, the fact Don Jr., Eric, and everybody else was in town. Donald is desperate. He wants something to happen. The more that I see, and then this is what when I saw the Capitol attack, the first thing I thought was Trump directed a Capitol attack. And so that's my honest first opinion. I was like, this is a coup.
Yeah, they orchestrated it for the purpose of most certainly. And look, that isn't a far reach. You didn't need a crystal ball for that, Scott. No. I mean, if you were reading Parler, if you were reading the right-wing sites, this is where their whole argument of, we were just peace-loving people and just got caught up in the moment is BS. They went there with the intent that they were going to stop the certification of the vote. That was their intent showing up. So for me right there, there's no way you could say, we were just happy-go-lucky. Nonsense.
I think that they went there with a list of people to kill. I think that, other people had a list of people they wanted to detain. that they thought they were going to do it on behalf of the United States of America. So definitely take hostages, if not kill other people. And they did not expect the combination of the Capitol Police and the Secret Service with Pence being there. It was, I guess, a little bit much for them to handle. And they also did not have, I guess, a good layout of the place. But the security was so tight and they had a red line. And anybody who passed it sadly paid a price for that. Again, I think it's very lucky that it was not a massacre, that wasn't hundreds of people, that was, but it's still absolutely awful.
See, that's where you and I differ.
Yeah.
I'm of the mindset you cross that line, it's over for you. I'm a little harsher than you are, I think, because you say unfortunately and sadly. I say it should have been more, and the more of these people who did the things they did, I wouldn't have shed a tear.
No, as a former body man for politicians, a person who's been security for politicians before, I can tell you that it's not because of the experience of the Capitol Police. They should be thankful for that, and that's why they didn't reach for their gun. That's why they didn't immediately go for that, because they've been in war zones. They've been in, and so and they know if they're outnumbered, they know the response, to that as well. But there's just so much chaos. I'm glad that it wasn't, further, but we are here, and I think we're going to find, I think we're going to find out worse. I think we're going to find out a plan that was much worse than what actually panned out. And we're very lucky to have had, there were a lot of lucky situations.
Yeah,
And
we got to get to the bottom of this. There's got to be a no stone unturned. Do you think any of this has to do with Ron Johnson coming out today saying his preference is to leave in 2022? I guess this is him kind of softly saying he's not going to run for re-election, considering the Republican from Moscow is in his words target number one.
Yeah, I don't think he has a chance to win in Wisconsin because he doesn't represent the people of Wisconsin, and he doesn't represent Wisconsin values. As a person who grew up in the Midwest in Ohio, I can tell you that my friends in Wisconsin don't appreciate his candor. Republican, Democrat, Independent, doesn't matter. His snipiness and snarkiness is not that indicative of the humble nature that I know most of my friends from there are. And so it's really just about a bunch of showboating, stall tactic, delaying, bunch of nonsense.
I thought you were going there, but you caught yourself good, because it's a bunch of BS. It is what it is. And the fact that he made a staffer read all 628 of those pages of that bill last night when his staff should have done it, and he should have done it, again, just to draw out the process and slow the relief that people need down is unforgivable.
Yeah, and and I think that that's why he's not going to run, because he knows it's unforgivable. But I'm not sure what people what he thinks. Maybe people get stuck in their little bubble and then they think that they're doing the right thing because they're surrounded by a bunch of idiots or telling them to do that. But I mean, there's really no excuse. He made it to the Senate. He's been around a very long time. He knows his way around. So again, my question would be what happened when he was in Russia? What did you do? What did you get caught in? Because again, erratic behavior like this, what's crazy about it is the most logical kind of deduction here is that he's being blackmailed, because it just, again, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know why a lot of these people vote against American people or against putting money in American people's hands when they're desperate and hundreds of millions of people need it. It's almost our entire country needs it.
Yeah, but I could go with they're entitled. They're not hurting. They don't know anyone that's hurting. That they buy that, everyone's lazy and stupid and they buy that stuff, and that I come back to they're entitled.
I think that Republicans are in store for a wake-up call. In 2022, you have the organizations that won back the House, the White House, that got a special prosecutor appointed under full Republican control to look into the current president at the time and his Russian ties. We're in charge now. and we won't be distracted by a White House race, and so we'll be focused on Senate and House. So I don't think that they're prepared for what's to come in regards to how overwhelmingly we are supported and united as the American people. And I think as of right now, again, we're getting our footing. I'm getting organized for 2022. We just finished that. I'm not sure if you noticed, but I've been a lot slower on social media and elsewhere because we're reorganizing and getting ready for what's to come. I don't think that they're prepared. We're talking about the biggest online organization that's ever existed in the history of the world is here in America, and it's the Resistance. And, it's resistance forever, but it's not resistance anymore. It's now leadership. And I think we're going to, as we get our footing here and we start to hit our stride, I don't think that there's a chance that Republicans get the House or the Senate. I believe that Democrats will expand their majorities in both, especially because we won't be spread too thin. I mean, Speaker Pelosi, we worked on one House race. We did like 13 Senate races, but we didn't really focus on the House. Most groups didn't focus on the House. Now we'll be focusing on the House and the Senate. So I think that it's going to expand everything there. And that's what we need to do, obviously, because we have people gleefully going up and thumbing their nose and, down trying to invoke McCain.
Yeah, what the hell was that?
I think honestly, just from my experience with, I think she was like, just trying to be like, I'm going to get in trouble for that. Like that kind of like, ugh, kind of like that. And she didn't, but the side view looks terrible.
Yeah, for people who don't know what we're talking about, when Kristen Sinema made her thumbs down vote on the minimum wage today, she did kind of little dipsy do kind of whatever the little curtsy kind of thing, and you go, what was it with the extra body English? You didn't need that to stick it to working people, and a lot of people online were calling it her Marie Antoinette moment.
Yeah, I think it's.
Yeah, it's crazy. Let me take a break right here. Sure. I want to come back and get on the other side of this so we can get into the COVID bill and all the stuff that happened today. Going to take a quick break. Right back with Scott Dworkin, co-founder of the Democratic Coalition. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So I'm going to pick up where we left off with Scott Dworkin, co-founder of the Democratic Coalition, also host of the fabulous Dworkin Report. We were talking about Kristen Sinema, who gave the thumbs down, reminiscent of John McCain, where she did some little dipsy-do, whatever that was, in the naughty schoolgirl outfit, which I just thought was bizarre. But, we are talking about Kristen Sinema after all. But here's the thing. I look at this and I go, this was the wrong message to be sending. And Scott, real quick, before we move on, I wanted to get your thoughts of that moment. Did she have to give it that little extra? Did she have to do that?
I just think that it was a mistake, and she'll probably apologize for it or be like, my bad, and we'll just have to move on. I think the bigger problem here is the vote.
Yeah, I don't care about what she did. I
think this is an excuse.
Yep.
I think people have attached this as the blame. Something was going to be there to point out, and so this just adds fuel to the fire. It's kind of like pouring gasoline. Should have just gone up. No theatrics about it. It's not time to joke around. And so, again, overall, she's solid for Dems. And I don't know how she's had this tilt. Where it's like, we have to keep the legacy of the filibuster. What are you talking about? But I will say that I think it's just, I'm not trying to make excuses where I think it was a mistake, but I'm not gonna cancel her or anything. I think I'll let her apologize, and but more importantly, I want to know her truth behind the $15 minimum wage. Like, what was the vote? What were the other 7 senators thinking? I want to know why they think they shouldn't be. I'm not going to go there. I was going to say primary.
But look, you're not going to primary Joe Manchin. You're just not. You're going to lose, and you're going to get a Republican. And probably the same with her as well. I mean, I want. You didn't have to go that length. But then I look at the other 6. You had Jean Shaheen and Maggie Hassan from New Hampshire. I don't know why they're against that. I mean, the cost of living up in New Hampshire is extremely high. A $15 an hour wage isn't out of the realm of possibility. Tester was against it. I'm going, come on.
I think it's like procedure. Some people think like there's different rules about it. Many may have not. I think one of the senators, this was confusing to me. They didn't support it because it was Bernie. Which didn't make any sense to me because he's been pushing this more than anybody. And it's just.
So stop. Wait a second. You're going to vote against, hardworking people getting a raise because you got a problem with the wild, crazy-haired guy from Vermont.
That's my understanding. Yeah. Well, bad optics because you vote for his bill, he might actually pass it, and God forbid. I mean, I just don't understand. I would love to see all of these people in Congress make $15 an hour.
I'm right there with you. But here's the thing that gets me, Scott, and this is the part that I really have a problem with, and I'm struggling. And you're somebody who I trust on these game politic DC games. There was no reason not to vote for this because it was never going to pass. There was no reason to put a target on your own back for being against working people because this was never going to reach the 60 vote threshold to get put back in the bill. So why cause this moment?
I think this is me guessing. I think that it may never have been able to pass in the first place.
It was never going to pass.
Like at any point. I think they included it into the bill. This was the rubber band theory that I was talking about, I think, that I've talked about for years of how Republicans approach things so broadly and so right-wing and so like, we're not going to negotiate with this, that we went ahead and put together a gigantic package that benefits, everybody who needs it and then some. And I think in that then some is what Republicans and some of the moderate Democrats have to negotiate with, instead of if we just presented the bill, then they'd be negotiating down the overall bill, which they already are doing. So I think it's just adding more to the bill so that there's something but I don't understand the Democratic votes against it because it's not going to look procedurally or because this guy wrote it. It's going to look, you voted against the minimum wage, and that's what the campaign ads will say.
That's what my point was. My point was it was never going to pass ever. It was going to be a 50-50 vote at the best.
Right.
It was never going to get back into this bill. It had to get 60 to get put back in. It was never getting that. So why cause this kind of moment? It tells me that there's something beyond this that I got real problems with a lot of these folks. But here, let's move on because that's done. It's dead. It's gone.
I'll just say some things don't make any sense right now, but then they make sense a month from now. This is one of those things that will never make sense probably ever.
Yeah.
Because it's not in the line. Now, maybe there's a different plan in place that they know about where they can't get slammed on this vote, but maybe they worked out some way to get it through in another way. And so they'll be like, well, we knew that this was going to be the route. So that's the other thing is that they have another way to do it. And they know that it's going to be that way. And so right now they're voting for it because they don't want this version of it, but the version that'll be later down the line. And then that way they won't have to look back. And all these senators who voted against it is because they wanted to support something later down the line that's a standalone or something along those lines. So I'm guessing that there's some kind of...
I'm giving you a lot of credit here.
This is just a guess. I'm
giving you a lot of credit because it seems like why would you bring all this out if you didn't have your ducks in a row from the beginning?
That's what I'm saying. I think the ducks are in a row, but
okay.
I don't. Well, I hope so, but it would have to come quick. It'd have to be in the next month where this is cleaned up. But I don't understand either because it's just not. It's not good optics. And the only way that they can reconcile that is if they did vote on something that passed later.
Right, because now here we are. We spent an entire day talking about minimum wage and talking about unemployment. For me, this should have been worked out before you even stepped out onto the field to move this bill. This should have just gone through like a hot knife through butter. You should have had this moving along. We should be further down the path. and yet it took all day to come to. We're going to take $100 away from the unemployed. We're going to extend the time a little bit longer, and we're going to cap the amount of money that people get. You couldn't have figured that out before you brought this stuff on the field?
I don't. I'm not sure about that. I'll just say that they're going through it with a fine-tooth comb, or it seems like that. You. But I don't. Everything else is an excuse, and I'm a person who likes to work quick, and
we got to get things done.
So I have a guy on the phone who keeps on saying, like, we need to, like, this needs to pass immediately. What are you guys doing? Like, what are y'all doing? And what's going to happen next? And
you're
why
like every one of us. You're like every American who's the same thing.
On the phone with them that I am sick and tired of these games, and I'm sick and tired of not having leadership, and they in Congress on one side of it, because they better get Mitch McConnell a little bit of his juice or whatever's happening. We better be ramming bills through like judges. And somebody doesn't want to vote for it? Then don't give them any support. Drop them from the DSCC. Say that you're not going to campaign for them. Say that you will primary them, but legitimately. Doesn't matter who it is. I don't care if it's West Virginia, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama. I don't care where it is, but we cannot stand for this. It's not about being united. It's not about standing for this. This is right and wrong. This is America or not. And so they went ahead and voted their way. I'll never forget it. You'll never forget it unless they remedy it by passing it. But soon. Right. They got to do it soon.
So, and speaking of soon, because look, I guess the March 14th when the unemployment runs out, it's coming soon. We got to get this stuff moving. I guess the 100 amendment voter-rama is going on right now. When does this end up? When do we actually get a vote, do you think, in the Senate on this?
As of right now, it's going to be tomorrow. We don't know the timeline on that. I think that Schumer and McConnell will come up with a deal that actually limits the amount of amendments that'll be there, because I think it takes 12 senators to be attached to an amendment for it to move and be debated and whatnot. So they'll limit those amendments, and then that timing will be down. I think it'll be tomorrow, unless there's some more stall tactics. I don't think we're looking any later than Sunday. It would be early in the day, but I would see Schumer keeping them in as long as possible. And, it'll just be whatever it's going to be. It's going to be over the weekend. Then it goes back to the House.
Right.
And where it'll pass as well. And then it goes to President Biden's desk after they set it up or whatever. So I think that it's perfect timing where it'll be in, and they'll be able to put things in motion to keep that from running out. I think also they have a way to do it in an emergency style if there's any funds that run out, where they can reallocate funds so that if there's like a day or two that there's a gap, that they don't have a gap, that they fill in that gap. So I think there's a lot of plans around that. They're being very careful about the rollout so that it's an immediate rollout and there's no stall, no failure. So they are working on the building blocks for that as well.
Does this bill get any Republican votes?
Maybe one or two. Collins, Murkowski would be the only two that I would look possibly at. Everybody else is no. Right. I doubt it. When it goes back to the House, I would assume that every Republican votes against it. Why would you, if you're a Republican politically? That's how they kind of think about it, instead of doing what's right for the American people.
Dude, you're helping people in the moment of great need in this country. The fact that they're standing steadfast against helping families is incredible to me. Because look, you've got Republican governors and mayors and city council people who are saying, no, we need this. Stop holding this up. We need it.
Yeah, it's the out-of-touch billionaires who control their little puppets and pawns in Congress, and it's the same game that we've had to play forever. And the Republican Party is slowly turning into the party of Trump, and like everything else, it rots and fails and goes bankrupt. And eventually everybody around the former guy, they get arrested, they get caught up in something.
Let's hope. I'm all in favor of a building project just to house them. Let me ask you this. Tina Smith came out today, said that she's the senator from Minnesota, said that she's now come around to the idea of ending the filibuster. About damn time. But hey, better late than never. even if, honestly and truthfully, even if we ended the filibuster, it still wouldn't have helped the minimum wage. But for me, I think it's got to go. My compromise is very simple, and I think I've told you this before. You want a filibuster? You get your stack of Bibles, you get your stack of phone books, you get whatever reading material you need. You hold the floor and you filibuster like Mr. Smith when he went to Washington. You hold the floor, nothing else moves because it's that important. This idea that we can stop any bit of progress just because one person has a problem, or you can't get a super majority of votes of 60, that stuff's got to end.
Yeah, I mean, the pageantry, the intrigue, filibuster. I've talked to American people throughout the country this week, and most people don't know what a filibuster is. All they kind of know is somebody stalling. Like, they just see it as a stall tactic. We should go over everything that we possibly can with a steamroller. We should bounce, like there should be no barriers for us. We should have the same kind of aggressive attitude in the Senate and the House, all through Congress, and use every rule that we possibly can to save as many lives as possible, because that's what this is. It's about money that goes to people, that saves lives, that keeps them from being sick, that keeps them from being homeless, that keeps them from dying. Again, that's important, and keeps people healthy, safe, vaccination centers, getting vaccine funded overall. I mean, like, there's so much with the bill. It just doesn't make sense why you go against it. I think it's a travesty that we have so many people that would be against it. And I think that in the long run, this specific bill will be, the COVID relief bill will be why the Democrats expand their majorities in the Senate and the House in 2022.
Yeah, I hope so. But I want to get something else done between now and 2022. We need a massive infrastructure bill. We need, we need debt relief for students and restructuring of how we do student loans in higher education in this country. So much needs to be done. This week, the House passed a historic bill, H.R. 1. Doesn't stand a snowball's chance of passing the Senate. We also passed the George Floyd bill. Doesn't stand a snowball's chance. Another reason I think we got to get rid of the filibuster.
Yeah, I mean, again, filibuster ain't feeding people. Filibuster ain't stopping a dirty cop from shooting somebody that's unarmed, an unarmed black man. Like, I think a filibuster, it doesn't serve any purpose right now that would actually help the American people, and the Senate should do whatever it takes to pass these bills to help the American people, to keep them safe. No excuses.
Last question I got for you. Sunday, you had the big Trump speech. Kind of low energy. Didn't bring new material. Kind of just some retread stuff. I think could have been done by a good impersonator. And also the golden calf, Bob's Big Boy kind of doll with the Constitution and the magic wand in shorts. I wanted to get your thoughts of his spiel there at Crazy Pack.
Yeah, the golden Donald or whatever, that was made in Mexico, and it was then brought over here for finishing or something, because of course it was made there. The speech was, I made it about 12 minutes in, and then I posted the fact that I turned it off. Yep. But I did watch a recap of some of the things. It just is a desperate, pathetic terrorist that doesn't belong in the United States of America. And he just reminds people of that every single day. And as we see the normalcy come out from from the Biden-Harris administration, and normal people speaking and talking and acting with candor and respect and love, and I think you're going to see him look even crazier, as crazy as he actually is. And so this is going to be off the charts. That speech was not a speech. It was a rant. It was a
fundraiser.
It was a long, so basically Trump's CPAC speech was the long tweet he's been saving up that he read aloud since he lost his Twitter account.
He got all his tweets out in one
drunk rant at an airport bar with the guy hunched over and saying, "Oh, I need some more booze, but let me tell you about the old times when we we charged the Capitol. We were patriots. Like, that's all. Like, what are you talking about, you psychopath? Like, you didn't do anything. You hurt people. You killed people, and you're still hurting people. Stop.
Absolutely stop. That is absolutely the right response. And I'll be honest, after I was done watching, I go, I'm so glad he's gone.
Yeah.
Just so glad. And now we move forward. We clean up his mess. But Scott, I appreciate the time, the comments, the thoughts. I'll look forward to talking to you again.
Sounds great. Thanks, Rick. Have a great night.
You as well. Our good friend Scott Dworkin. Make sure you check out his work at the Democratic Coalition. Quick break. Right back. Stick around. Listen to The Rick Smith Show.
Remembering that united we bargain, divided we beg. Rick Smith.